Hello and welcome to Sport Vibes on DNTWOK. We take it upon ourselves to serve you some of the very best content from issues emanating from the world of sport. My name is Bolaji Alimi, the sports pilot, and I have the privilege of being your anchor on this journey. So sit back and enjoy. On the show today, we'll be talking about two different World Cups, majorly focusing on those two, one in the game of basketball and the other in football. But we'll start off with that of basketball because the past week saw the qualifying tournament for the 2022 FIBA Women's World Cup, and these included two African teams, talking about Nigeria, the D Tigers, and of course Mali. And at the end of the tournament, maybe disappointingly for Africans, only just one, but I still think it's not a disappointment. Just one of the teams were able to make it through. Talking about the D Tigers of Nigeria, and we'll be talking about their exploits in spite of all the challenges they faced before the tournament. You want to talk about the internal issues and all these things. So in case you haven't heard, in case you missed it, let us announce it to you that the D Tigers of Nigeria have secured qualification for the 2022 FIBA Women's World Cup, which will be hosted by Australia in September this year. And as I mentioned earlier, there were quite a lot of things that happened before that victory, that success for the D Tigers. The internal issues with the MBBF, quite a number of complications, which we will choose not to mention. The less said about that, the better. But you want to focus on sporting reasons now. This was a team that had depleted squad. Their leader, their point guard, Ezin Akalu, was not present. They had to rely on Promise Amukamara. And you want to talk about Sarah Ogoke. These ladies are so vital to how the team played, and yet they were not around. And to make matters worse, in a way, the very first match was like a baptism of fire because they faced China and they lost. But in an extraordinary fashion, this team in the second game against France, you're talking about the world number 5 team, in terms of the FIBA ranking, the D Tigers are ranked 16th, so it was a huge game for them in terms of quality and what to expect. But they recovered from a 17-point deficit after the first quarter and ended up winning the match 67 to 65 points. That was huge, but they did not just stop there. They went on to win the third game against Mali because they needed to win that game to avoid any form of permutation. If they had not won the game against Mali, they might still have qualified if some other conditions favored the team, but they took their destinies into their hands and defeated their African counterparts, Mali. So for the Tigers, I think you cannot overpraise them right now. They have done a good job. You want to look at every member of the squad, the kind of shift they put in spite of all the odds that were stacked against them, talking about the conditions they were subjected to. And this is really great for the Nigerians and of course for the continent of Africa. Don't forget that their best performance in a World Cup is still the 2018 World Cup, where they made it as far as the quarterfinals. And for them this time around, you could back them. Who would bet against them going beyond that record? Maybe just taking it a step further, or even going far beyond. This is sports. Sometimes you can't predict what will happen. So for the Tigers, a good one for them. And beyond the Tigers, beyond Africa, the qualifying tournament had a few other complications because Belarus had to withdraw, for example, due to COVID-19 issues. There were also tiny complications between the United States and Russia because the United States do not consider Russia's COVID-19 vaccine to meet their entry requirements. So FIBA had to find a way around that and stage games across locations, and these had an effect on how the points were shared, for example. But fingers crossed, we hope this has no effect on the big stage itself, talking about the World Cup when time comes in September. So this was a good outing beyond the group where we had Nigeria and Mali. Several other teams did themselves proud, and of course we're eagerly anticipating the World Cup come September. So we'll take a quick break now on Sport Vibes. Ensure you stay with us because when we come back, we will still be talking about World Cup, but in a different game.
Promise over to Chittum, who gets to the baseline and into the lane, and she's fouled.
15-point lead.
Oh.
The turnover and Dabu. I mean, maybe just some of the inexperience coming out. Nice job there by Makimura finishing.
And really, you kind of have to bunch as you look at Aquanco launch and make the fourth quarter comeback. They survive.
Look at them, all smiles.
Welcome back and thank you for sticking with us on Sport Vibes. DNTWOK is the channel. Earlier we talked about the exploit of the D Tigress of Nigeria. We talked about a team that has emerged as champions back to back in Africa, 3-time defending champions, talking about the African Championship, and they have taken it a step further this time around, yet again qualifying for the big scene, the World Cup. Congratulations to the D Tigress. And now let's talk about another World Cup in football. We are not talking about the one to be hosted by Qatar this year. We're talking about one that has been played already. It is often said that opportunity comes but once. But for Chelsea Football Club, when the opportunity to win the Club World Cup came about 10 years ago, they missed that opportunity. But many of their fans are thanking God now, because when the opportunity presented itself again this time around, they took it with both ends. And now congratulations to Chelsea, because they are world champions in football. Many fans are saying they have won everything that it is to be won as a football club, and I don't think that is far-fetched. Congratulations to Chelsea. But we will be viewing it from a different perspective, because some people are not even aware that anything like that went down. When you compare the popularity of the Club World Cup to the World Cup that people know, the World Cup we've talked about time and again on this show, talking about the FIFA World Cup to hold in Qatar later this year, there seems to be that gulf in class, that gulf in popularity rather. And we took our time to sample people's opinions on some of the reasons why the Club World Cup has not been so popular, in spite of the prestige that is seemingly attached to the cup. We're talking about a competition endorsed, hosted, organized by FIFA. And some of the reasons would be mentioned now. In no particular order, the very first point that we noted is the fact that it looks more like an inconvenience than a privilege to these teams. Talking about the team, especially the teams in Europe, you look at the fact that these teams just had a very busy festive schedule. Some of them, of course, went for the winter break, but at this time of the season, fixtures are coming thick and fast, and you just want to manage your players regardless of how big your squad is. You do not want to travel to Asia, you don't want to travel a far distance. Your team can be jet lagged, fatigue can take its toll on the long run, and all these other external factors. So that is a major reason why some part of Europe, especially the media, do not fancy the Club World Cup because of the timing. Maybe if it is made to come around June, July, in the summer, when many teams are looking at pre-season tournaments, trying out younger teams, and then the attention of other audience, the attention of the fans are not fixed on other competitions, maybe they could get more coverage, maybe people could pay more attention. But come on, several fans in the world would prefer to watch Newcastle defeat Everton than tune in for Al Jazeera against Al Hilal, with all due respect to these teams. So it's just about that really when it comes to the turnout of the fans as well. You look at the fact that when games are not involving these big teams from Europe, when Chelsea or Palmeiras is not playing, you seem to see that the fans in the stadium are scanty. The attendance is not impressive enough. Another point we should mention also is the choice of hosts. You want to look at the hosts in the past. Apart from Brazil, which hosted the first edition, we've seen hosts like Japan, Morocco, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. Of course, when you mention Qatar and the United Arab Emirates, they cause concern more because of their human rights record, which many people do not fancy. So you look at the fact that these are not necessarily nations that are to be reckoned with on the international scene based on football merits, but they seem to have attracted FIFA because of the economic deals. So when money seems to be the only motivation and not the sporting reasons, fans seem to be a bit skeptical about events like that. And another reason from the opinions gathered is the fact that it doesn't seem like a rivalry anymore. And why is that? You're talking about Club World Cup. We should know that certain continents are contesting against another. And when you look at Europe, for example, Europe has the very best legs across the world, not just from Europe. If you are the best player in Africa, of course, at some point you would have to step up and play on the European scene. So when Mohamed Salah, for example, is coming with Liverpool to play against Al Ahly of Egypt, you know, it's just, it feels somehow really, especially from the African perspective. And so in this way, it loses that sense of competition. Really, it's like a cheat to some people. And so when you look at all these factors, it's more like giants versus minnows and not really like rivalry anymore. And another perspective from which you can view this is the poor economic returns, the poor economic benefits for the winning teams. When you consider the kind of money teams from Europe, for example, you know, Europe seems to be the climax of football right now, seems to be that peak for any footballer or team. And when you look at the amount of money, say, a UEFA Champions League winner would rack home, you can't compare that to what is being earned by Club World Cup champions. So if it's a World Cup, then it shouldn't just be about the name, it should be a World Cup. The kind of rewards you would receive as a result of emerging champions should commensurate with the name of the competition, with the prestige seemingly attached to it. So quite a number of other reasons, and some people have even argued that it's somehow unfair to have Chelsea and Palmeiras or any other team from South America to just join at the semi-finals while others have been negotiating some rounds before they come. But we just keep it at that for now. You should have some other comments. You should have your own opinions about the Club World Cup as well. What do you think about the Club World Cup? Don't forget, Gianni Infantino, the president of FIFA, mentioned it not so long that he would love to extend the formats. He would love to extend the number of teams participating in the Club World Cup to 24 teams, and then we would have the group stage. We would have other knockout matches before champions emerge eventually. So all these things are being put in place, and that is why our own submission will still be the fact that it's never doom and gloom. It is not doom and gloom for the Club World Cup. Congratulations, huge congratulations to Chelsea. It's no mean feat emerging as world champions. And when you look at how the competition is right now and you compare it to the past, you can see improvements here and there. So that means there's still more room for improvement, and of course you want to believe that FIFA are really working on that. So our submission, as I mentioned earlier, is the fact that it gets better really. So just keep your fingers crossed. Expect your favorite team to qualify at some point, and then expect improvements. And that is how far we will go on the show this week on Sport Vibes. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe if you have not done so yet. You may be missing out on exciting content if you have not subscribed yet. So please do subscribe right now by clicking the subscribe button below. Subscribe to our network, and of course follow us across our social media platforms, from Facebook to Instagram to Twitter, Telegram, and of course LinkedIn. My name is Bolaji Alimi, and I've had the privilege of being your anchor on the show today. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you enjoy the ride. Stay tuned and get set for more, because we will be back on your screen next week. Bye for now.